hitting the button.
All right.
Oh, I'll work my way up there.
Yeah, no worries. No worries. You can come on up here and introduce the show while I go ahead and get everything. I'll set up for you here.
Coffee wise?
Yeah, glasses and everything are going.
Oh, okay. So I think our podcast is getting less professional as time goes on. What do you think?
I think so, and frankly, I think that's more genuine that way.
Yeah, it is pretty for realsies. So
The whole purpose was to display our personalities and thoughts over time and commit them to record.
they are on record now. There's a lot of them too, man.
I know.
There's a lot. There's like 118 episodes. That's about $1.50 or somewhere mostly are up to an hour and 40 minutes a piece. So there's a shitload of content out there.
It's a treasure trove. A time capsule, as you say.
It is definitely a time capsule.
Mm-hmm.
As long as YouTube is still a thing.
Yeah.
So.
But yes, the lack of professionalism, it sort of matches our personalities. You know, I don't mean that in a negative way. It's just that we don't have the same, I don't know, overblown commitment to, you know, must be on time, must be.
No, it's got to make you laugh. That's about it.
Right.
Yeah.
And when you say you, it literally means like you and I.
Yeah.
If the joke's not for anybody else, that's really not our problem.
That's not our problem. Yeah, you don't have to listen to
Do you want to explain yourself? It's like, no.
No, I don't. So.
Hey, you wanted this black, right?
Yes, please. So, especially after pizza. So.
You know?
I think,
right.
Yeah, the curdling milk in my coffee would not be a good idea. So.
Look, it's got a little bit of like coffee acid that helps break it up, you know?
Yeah, it kind of does.
Push it
Then after dinner, right? Yeah, exactly. So.
And everything's recording, yeah?
Everything's good.
Okay, great. Why don't you introduce the show?
I'm Pat.
Hey, I'm Jeffrey.
This is coffee before bed.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it's definitely tonight, man. So, drink this coffee.
And then go to
Bullshit
bed.
with you, and then
Yeah.
go to bed.
Right.
I moan at like 3 o'clock. Oh, my stomach.
I know. Unfortunately, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Oh, so I do have a little bit of news today.
Oh, dear God, what?
I got the Hogwarts game last night, and it is fucking glorious.
Are you having a good time with it?
My daughter and I were playing it almost all day. So, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. I actually got it to cast to my big TV downstairs. So she doesn't actually want to play it. She just wants to tell me what to do. So,
you know, that's kind of fun in and of itself, isn't it?
yeah, especially when I give her some kickback on it. So it's like, you want to talk to Dad? Hit A. I was like, well, that ends the conversation. Don't you want to see the entire dialogue tree?
I know you don't.
We could miss some really important information here. So,
Okay, you know what? All right, and answer this. Be honest. Like, do you actually sit there and listen to the whole dialogue tree, or no? When you usually play games.
yeah, actually, I do. Yeah.
Do you?
Yeah, usually, well, not like on a second playthrough, of course, but, you know, on an initial playthrough, if I'm into it, yes. If I'm not into the game, no, I'll find myself skipping shit all the time. So, you know, like The Witcher got that way for me, and I really like the game, but I gotta tell you, man, I was playing it on, like, the hardest difficulty.
Yeah.
It wasn't that hard. It was just, like, there was something about the combat system in that game I just fucking got. So,
that's good.
Yeah, no, it was kind of good, but it also meant that there were a lot of times it was like, oh my God, you got to save, you know, us from all these fucking, you know, like Al Ghouls, you know, that have ran over the village and stuff. It's just like, okay, whack, 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 whack. All right, give me my reward. What is this? This is a piece of shit. So all the crap that I've got, and the thing that I figured out in that game is you go out and you get all the Witcher gear stitched together. It's way overpowered compared to the other shit you can get. So
yeah, when you go buy all that stuff and then get it all tinkered out and all that other crap.
Yeah.
No, you're right, but there's also the game does keep a few things in reserve. Some, like monsters and stuff, that really will fuck you up.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, the actual the gameplay of it, the dudes and stuff and things like that, not a problem.
No, not a problem. Yeah. No, you're right. There are a couple monsters here and there that will really fuck you up.
Giant ass monsters that, like, unless you figure out something like, all right, I can. Okay, I've walked you in between this barn and this rock. And
I think I know what you're talking about. You know?
is it a big one?
It was a big one.
Yeah. Because otherwise, the first couple of times you hit me, this is a problem.
Yeah.
Which is fine. Actually, that actually kind of fits the lore a little bit. I know for me with these kind of games, especially dialogue heavy ones, like I can sit there and bitch about like the voices and all that, but that's got nothing to do with it, right? Mm-hmm. So I play every single game with subtitles, and
oh, you know what? I didn't turn on subtitles.
Yeah, and that's the thing is I read about 150 times faster than these people speak. So
Hogwarts game would really piss you off because it's all slow mouth British speaking.
Dude, I have to turn the subtitles on just to understand that mush mouth. Depending on which form of Britain they're speaking.
It's kind of all over the place. So, like it takes place in the late 1800s, but you have this remarkably diverse cast of characters. So,
this takes place in the past?
It takes place way in the past. Yeah.
Oh.
So, yeah. Before all the other movies and shit, and yeah. But, I was... So we went out last night. I spent some time on my phone looking at some of the reviews and stuff. And the internet is gyrating out there.
Isn't that amazing?
It's actually kind of glorious, Jeff. I know how you feel on this one. Yeah. So, you see the Kotaku articles. They're like aghast. It's like completely pearl clutching, like bad. Like how much, attention this game's gotten on Twitch, and how many people are doing exactly what I'm doing right now, grooming my daughter to like this. I was like, you know what? I don't ever play games. Why don't we play the Hogwarts game? She's like, yes, Daddy, let's play the Hogwarts games. And I was like, yeah, this is great. This is glorious, and look at that. How many genders you have? You have 2. So you can pick the boy guy or the boy character or the girl character. So it's like, okay.
I guess there's supposed to be a trans character in the game, but I don't know.
It wouldn't surprise me. I mean, there's quite a few, it's like, so it's 1895, huh? And somebody's got purple hair dye, really, yeah. So that's okay. I'll let that go. It's like, wow, we got a remarkably diverse faculty here. We've checked all the boxes.
Well, I mean, cool, yeah. So I mean,
which is fine, okay? Because that's the harmless part of Harry Potter,
right?
That's just always been kind of like a little bit more progressive and a little bit more edgy on some of that stuff. No problem. Made one of the main characters gay. And nobody batted an eye about it or something. And all of a sudden, fucking Kotaku and those idiots that Reset Era, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
just decided that this was
ban all discussion of the game, yeah.
The fucking downfall of Western Civ.
I know. The game that shall not be named. It's like,
it shall not be
fucking
named.
Wrong with you guys. Yeah, that's kind of a weird thing, man. And actually, it's not weird. It's not weird because, again, this like you and I discussed, this really demonstrates that the loudest pockets are not that deep. It is not.
They're very shallow.
This is not something where you go to the Outback Steakhouse and you're like, oh, well, there's our local, cadre of trans activists. It's not like that. It's not.
There's not like a church every other corner.
No.
This is not Mormonism.
It's well, yes, and also in specific locations, but yes, yeah.
Right.
Or it is, no, this is just a bunch of loudmouths that have found each other on the fucking pervy discords across the internet and have made their communities, and this is
I'm currently watching another Discord burn itself to the ground.
Which one's on fire this time?
This one that was related to this other game that I've been playing. So that the mod community got just fucking way out over its skis. So it's like, oh well, I want to do this, so I'm going to make a mod off that. And I'm like, cool. Then it's
Right.
like, well, that's off my mod, and so you have to install my mod in order to get this one to work now. It's like, I don't want to play with your shitty ships. So, I'm good, boys. So, and you know what, Jeff? I noticed it's on more so than anything else. It's always early access release games
Oh yeah,
where the Discord just eventually just keels over and burns to the ground. You know. And, you know, like, I had a couple guys come to me. It's like, well, the guys on the Discord are really mean to me. And I was like, what? And then, so, and I was like, what? Over installing the mods? Really? So, then I went and looked at it. Sure enough, it's like, well, if you can't read, I can't help you, kind of thing. It's like, whoa, man.
Jesus.
It's like, this guy is obviously old who's trying to get this to go, man. You know? But whatever, man. So, yeah, this one's not as bad as some of the other ones that I've seen, but...
No, you've seen some. Well, okay, I don't want to say that you've seen like the really toxic ones where it's gross.
Yeah, no, I never got on any of those.
But it's no. What you are seeing is that you've seen it be infected by the people that infect these things, right?
Yeah.
And what I can tell you is that in all the time, and I've watched forums burn to the ground, right, before there even was Discord and stuff, right?
Yeah.
And I can tell you, it's the same bad actors that come in and burn them every time and turn it into a purity test every time.
Mm-hmm.
And what I can tell
Exactly
you
what it is.
is I have never seen a single apology once. Not
Yeah, no, I haven't either, come to think of it.
There's never been a maybe we took this too far, right? Because that's the thing is,
Yeah.
at least in real life bullying, every now and then you have that, you have that bully who's got, he's just a single mom and he stops and he has that remorse and he's just like, hey guys, maybe we've gone a little too far this time. Why don't you pick him up and apologize? And the other dude turns to me and says, like, what are you talking about, Spider? And this guy's soft on me. This guy committed a crime of being gay on our turf. And then Spider's just kind of like, nah, man. He just wants to kill Viet Cong like I do. Whatever. Right, every now and then you put that about it on Discord, on all the fucking forums, on every community that they've torched, right? With their fucking acid. It's never a single apology.
No.
Yeah.
No, apologies are hard to come by on the internet, man. So...
I do it all the time.
Do you?
Yeah.
Like, sincerely, or...?
No, but well, yes and no. I mean, if the situation warrants it, like, the question is, was I actually wrong? Yes, I'm gonna say I'm sorry.
Oh,
was
okay.
it something where I said something offensive, but it came across offensive in the way I didn't intend? Yes, I could say I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, all right.
That doesn't happen too often because most of the time people are just looking for an angle to attack you. I'm like, nah, we're gonna do this. It's fine. You know what you came here for, and so do I.
Yeah, so let's fight. Yeah.
But in rare occasions, yeah, it's like, oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I didn't know.
Yeah. See, I find that, yeah, like, I've apologized over things a lot. But it's all wounded dog theory, man. So, some people respond really well to that. And the people who want to pick a fight with you, if you're just like, no, I'm not going to fight with you, they go away. So,
Yeah.
they really do. So, but, yeah, I don't know.
Because there's a million other people that are going to oblige them.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why, like, on any of the bigger channels, it's not even worth, like I used to kind of dive into some of the comments on some of these things and stuff like that. It's not even worth it, man. So it's like, it's just like every Discord server I've ever seen. It's 90% like fucking just barking, approval.
Right. Yeah.
So true. Oh yeah, this, speak truth, man. And stuff like that. And then, then it's like the shit posters. So, like,
which are fine because you can sniff them.
well, yeah, they fart in the room and they're the guys who are giggling, so you know who it is, and you know what they're up to.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
If you see a dude working the periphery, like coming in, just getting ready to drop one, drops one, then leaves, it's like, you know who you are.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Like, I'm not going to hold that against you. You know what you're doing.
Yeah. So, but I don't know. It was still fun to watch the guys at Kotaku kind of like lose their minds. So the articles they write are so bad too about it, because even trying to give it like there's this one guy, I don't think it was on Kotaku, it was on something else. He was trying hard to like it, okay, but really hide the fact that he really loved this game. So, and it was like, man, I mean, how did you just fucking paint yourself in that corner, man? So this is where your feet are going to get wet. Just do it. So get out there and start from the other side, kind of thing. Yeah.
Well,
so,
what's funny is this is the thing, is I have no problem with a person having some kind of moral issue with somebody on the creative team, right?
Sure.
That's fine. Like, say, for example, Chinatown's on, I'm going to watch it. I obviously have no love for Roman Polanski.
Right. Yeah.
Right? But at the same time, I'm going to turn around and say, this is actually a brilliant piece of art. But if I saw you in the street, I'd kick the ever-living shit out of you.
Yeah.
Right? But that's not going to make me turn around and say, ergo, movie F-, 4 thumbs down, because I've broken my toes to point them south. Right? Like, yeah, I can say in the article, I can say, I love this movie, but let me tell you about this shithead right here.
Yeah.
Okay? No reason to love him. In fact, he needs to be prosecuted. Right. But yeah, we used to, the term used to be separating the art from the artist. Right.
Yeah.
Dude, Patrick, the reasoning on this is ridiculous, because it's funny, because as of right now, we're so far detached from what we used to have in terms of, if you have a professional presentation, right? Mm-hmm. If you are an actor, actress, etc., your team used to bury your past so thoroughly, right, that the things that you said, the things that you were quoted saying were usually so bloody inoffensive, right? Mm-hmm. It would be rare. I mean, it would be extremely rare to see an athlete, an actor, anything where part of one of their quotations was even a swear word, right?
That was pretty rare.
I mean, it's ridiculous. Like, that was a scandal and a half.
Yeah, but that's back when you had, like, basically journalists were the gatekeepers of all public information. So...
yeah, and they tried to be professional, but...
yeah, but I mean, nowadays it's like so different, because you got people who are coming up now, they've got this digital trail of breadcrumbs behind them that will never go away,
No. And especially, you can't come into a serious journalistic situation where you're pretending to report on the news, but I can look at your tweet history and it is 4 years of wishing violence upon Trump supporters, and say, oh, you're a journalist, huh?
You're a journalist. Yeah, nice.
In real journalism days, they'd have fired you for this.
Right, yeah. So, but you were with the New York Times. It must be okay. So.
Unless you were a Times journalist, but you knew you were buying the Times. Right?
Yeah.
And even then, the Times had a couple of guys around there who were the counterbalance to that, because they knew that working an inflammatory audience, you have to inflame the other side every now and then. Right?
Yeah.
That's how it works. You don't just circle jerk it the whole time. Yeah. You have to have a couple of people in there that are there to stir their pot too.
Yeah. I was listening to a podcast a few days ago, and they were talking about kind of what had happened with the New York Times in particular. So, and why it's still actually, America's most successful newspaper and things like that. And I can't remember the exact quote, but there was one point in time where, like, it was Rupert Murdoch, who was the not just the Fox News guy, the New York Post guy, right? And he went to, I can't remember if it was like Macy's or Bloomingdale's, and said, "Hey, I want you guys to advertise in the New York Post rather than the Times." So, and he says, like, we want to clean up the image of the paper and stuff like that, so we're going to give you all kinds of free advertising space. And the guy said, "Fuck that." So he said, "I'd rather pay the Times triple." And it was like, well, why? He's like, "Because your readers are the ones that shoplift in my store." So it was a really good point, all right? Because then Rupert Murdoch went back and looked at it a little bit, and like, your average New York Times reader is like 2 standard deviations ahead in terms of income of just about everybody else in the fucking country.
Oh, yeah.
So it's a rich man's paper.
Yeah.
So, they don't read the Wall Street Journal. They don't care if the markets go up and down, So they want to know what's going on in the country.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. From a very specific point of view.
From a very specific point of view. And so it was kind of like, like, all right, well, that not only does that make business sense, but then it also makes sense why they've gotten so, almost single-minded, although they do have some conservative writers there that do a pretty good job.
They do, and that's, again, if you're smart, you do keep a few people like that on staff because of that particular reason, right? Now, that is not to say, all right, so let me also clarify on this. I don't hate the Post. As a matter of fact, there are things that I like about the Post because the Post is unapologetically ridiculous.
It's our version of the Daily Mail. It's great.
It really is. And you know what? I'm not going to lie. I love it for that.
It's just going to go out swinging every single time, man.
It doesn't fuck around. I mean, that's the thing. That's why I'm not mad at it, because if you are what you present, you can't get mad. It's like, you knew what this was. It's kind of like, we knew this was a summertime relationship and you're asking me about getting married. No, you knew what this was, right? And that's the thing. The Post just, you can tell because they constantly make joke headlines about like extremely morbid things.
Yeah. No, especially I remember seeing it just even at the supermarket checkout. It was like, that can't be true, but it's funny and I kind of want to buy this, So, but yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, the Times has always been kind of its own thing. The one that I'm really disappointed is Washington Post. So that, like, the whole democracy dies in darkness bullshit.
Oh,
Yeah, exactly.
Just here's a show. Dig yourself out of your own asshole and
Pretty much. And
like, go fuck yourself.
It just completely changed over the last
Jesus
15
Christ.
So, and like, I don't know, man. So, like, I lament actually getting your like weekly magazine, like Time. So
Yes.
that's what podcasts have turned to me. I listen to guys who post like once every week, or for once every 2 weeks in some cases, and they do news recaps, and then you have some time to let it sink in and think about it a little bit, And so it's like, thanks for the recap, man, because this thing's a goddamn fire hose. You can't drink. You cannot soak it all up. It's not possible. So and so, yeah, if I have someone who can explain it to me in an hour, yeah, I'll give you an hour of my time and $5 a month, whatever. So,
No, fair enough. I mean, I guess, I tend to do a little bit more like cursory reading on this stuff, but I'm at the computer all the time, so I'm taking a break and read this crap, and even then, I'm typically half-informed at best because the people I'm getting it from are half-informed.
That's happening a lot, man.
They want to report on it this fucking second, and they know jack shit about it. There are only certain things that I can decipher just from the headlines, where I can read something, it's like, okay, so we had ourselves, if there's 3 or more people shot and if they don't mention the ethnicity of the attacker,
You know
I
they're
know they were a
black.
minority.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. The last one, where was it? It was in Tennessee, Memphis.
Oh, I think you're right. Yeah.
Yeah. That was the first thing that I looked for the day that thing dropped. So I was like, all right, I'm going to read one article here. And if it doesn't say, all right, white cops, I guarantee you in 2 or 3 days, it's going to come out that every last one of them was black.
And what happened?
Oh my God. And then all of a sudden, crickets across the board, about it. And it's just like,
And it gets memory hold in a second.
in an absolute second. So, and I mean, so like one argument that I did see for that was actually, I thought it was a pretty good, it was kind of it was pretty insightful what this guy said. He said, so we have black police on, black, like suspect,
Yes.
whatever at this point in time. And the cops are very good about releasing all the brutal parts of the tape. So,
Yes.
yeah. And they immediately fired these 5 guys, and their local district attorney immediately went after them. So the police chief was on the air that night apologizing to the community. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Kind of thing. And so he's like, all right, so, they've kind of like gotten to the point in time where police departments have kind of a playbook on how you deal with these things now.
Yeah.
And he was saying, well, that's actually a good thing because you're going to see that, maybe like some of these issues, they get tamped down really, really quickly as long as they're in a situation. The only variable factor is white cops who do this to a black, suspect. All right. And so that's that's the one that nobody knows how to deal with at this point in time. But if you're actually going to have a legit, like discussion about like policing and whether or not police should have these fucking, like badass, like Army Ranger type units.
Right.
Now's the time to have it. And nobody wants to talk about that. Because literally in this case, you're taking race off the table. All right. And so you're saying like, okay, all right. So obviously you have some cops who've been militarized in one way or another.
Right.
So now's the time to talk about let's talk about recruitment, selection, and training.
Right. This is where, you go. You go to city council, right? And you go over there. I don't know how they do this. I don't know what fucking Washington Kinkos they have that actually prints those boards, and they actually
that they use in Congress.
Yeah,
they have their own print shop that does that. If you didn't know that,
will do it. Okay, that's why they're willing to fucking like roast through one cartridge of ink per placard, right? Because these things are always just, wow, that's like art scale quality. Yeah, you have 6 dozen of these.
Yeah, the opacity on that is fantastic.
Yeah, and I'm sitting there, it's like, I went to that's like $400 worth of printing, right? But yeah, so you go out there, and this is where you go to city council with your placards, and this is the time to sit down with like the 7 people on this board, right? And you just show them and say, all right, we've had time to think about it. I want you to look at these 2 things. It's like, what? It's like, so we need to decide the future of policing in this city. Mm-hmm. Like, and then you show this dude with like fucking tats, and he's got like that Duke Nukem haircut, and
the wraparound shades.
Yeah, that's right. So he's got like on his military gear, but you can see that the tats are spider webbing up his neck, and they stop at like his under ear, and like one of them is like death to something. I don't know, but something that's basically violent.
It just says or die.
And then you say it's like, well, we have this guy, and then you flip it down, and then you see like kind of pudgy O'Grady, and he's. It's like, we have to decide which version of policing we want to do, right? Because if you want the friendly cops, which is fine, you do actually want, we just have to hire like 200 more of these and actually just post them up around the place, right? You actually have to get these guys in the community, so this is a familiar face. And what do you want these cops to do? Changing your tire there, Let
me get the flashlight for you.
Exactly. Yeah, you have to do this. You want to change the attitude, right? Or you can say, well, we can't do that. So if we can't prevent it that way, then we have to have a team of fucking murder, death, kill guys that can go out there and basically stamp down anything that's, you know, potentially problematic, right? Because you can't talk them off the ledge because you don't have any kind of like personal connection to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you have to have dudes that come in there and say, like, I'm going to tell you get it out on the ground. This is your second request. Get down on the ground. Comply.
Comply. Yeah.
This is your third and final request. Comply. And then it's ass kicking time.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Because otherwise, that's how people get shot. That's how people get stabbed. That's how people get in trouble. Unless you can come out there and say, like, "Oh, you don't want to go stabbing nobody today. It's the young ones, you know."
Right. Yeah.
It's like your kid plays soccer with my kids.
Yeah.
You know, you got to make a choice, and that's fine. Look, I wouldn't mind if they actually, if they hired a shit ton more cops, right? But that was the approach they took, was we want them to be a community presence.
Yeah, sure.
That's expensive.
It's
right?
very expensive, and, you know, well, and like, it's very hard to get that going in communities that already have, you know, like basically rotten relations between, you know, the citizenry and the police, you know.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of ruined communities out there where basically they just need a bulldoze. You know?
Oh, Patrick, your city skyline solution. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I don't have to buy this property. No, okay. So, man, why do I have to click on each one of these buildings? Why can't I just draw a big square? And
And this is funny. Just today, Eric Adams in New York, he went out there and said, like, look, we can't stop shoplifting.
yeah, how's that guy doing? Bad, or is he trying? Or
Depends on who you ask.
yeah, okay.
Right.
I don't see anything on him, so I just know that he was supposed to be some kind of like crime fighter,
Middle
badass.
ground. Yeah,
Middle ground,
yeah. But this is, as they discovered, right? Look, New York right now is not New York of the 70s, right?
No, it's not.
Your dad could have told you stories,
But it's not of the early 2000s either.
But it's not, right? And that's the ticket right there. Is that's where Giuliani figured it out. He's like, I'm gonna have to play a little bit dirty, but I will make this happen. Right?
Yeah, he did.
And this is, you have to go in with a certain mentality. Like you have to take a look at certain people and say, I'm going to trample all over whatever you hold dear. So you have to like walk through town and you have to look at like murals of George Floyd and you have to get mad. You have to point and say, get this graffiti off this building, right? You have
Is this authorized?
you have to look at every like little crack in the street and say like, fix this up,
Yeah.
you know, fix that window. You have to go out there and say like, I'm going to sweep it clean.
Well, I mean, to be fair, he did a good job of that, and Bloomberg didn't do a bad job of it either.
Because he was a businessman.
Yeah, of course. So, you know,
Yeah.
yeah, then you had de Blasio in there, and he was there for what, 8 years? Something like that.
I think so, yeah.
He was there a long time.
Burned it down in record time.
Totally.
Yeah.
So now all right, so this ties back to what I was talking about before. So that a lot of the problems that police are facing is directly tied back to this fentanyl thing. So
Oh, right.
fentanyl's not like, if I can believe what I was reading earlier today.
Tell me about fentanyl, Patrick. I'm woefully uninformed.
So here's the thing about it is like, you know, so it's extremely lethal. It's very easy to manufacture. And it almost like, I didn't know this, but the Chinese basically shut down all their fentanyl production.
Did they?
Yeah, they did. And the Mexicans learned how to do it. So,
Okay.
and then now they order the chemicals from China, just like Breaking Bad, you know, kind of thing. But the chemicals aren't just used for fentanyl. So they're used
okay.
for all kinds of different shit.
Gotcha.
You know, 99% of which is completely above board. It's just when you order this one, it's a little fishy. Okay. So, but you know, they're really good at like figuring all that stuff out, and it's not like a cartel. So, you know, there's not like control over markets. Okay. It's about access to those chemicals And then, so you have a million distributors out there who basically make this shit in their basement, now.
Okay, makes sense.
So it's not like Walter White,
No, but it's actually that would be before. This would be before Walter White, because there was a time when you could get that shit. Well,
Yeah.
prior to Breaking Bad, and I'm not just saying the show, I'm talking about the actual rapid increase of methamphetamine. For a while there, it wasn't hard to get this stuff to make meth.
No. So, and that's the other side of the story. So fentanyl has actually been overtaken again in the United States by meth once again. So
What a fist fight.
Well, and that's because fentanyl, I mean, this was kind of a depressing article to read, but so what they would do is they make the fentanyl, which is pure white powder, and then you have to cut it with somebody, because if you take just a few grams on it, you flatline, kind of thing.
Got it.
Unless you've got your tolerance way up, at which point in time you're basically the Walking Dead anyway.
Right.
So, but so they find ways to cut it with everything from talcum powder to baby powder, equal packets, all kinds of shit. So, because you can cut it with just about anything. And so, but, even then, the manufacturers and the dealers were routinely killing their own clients. So, because, yeah, I use a coffee grinder in order to actually the electric ones, to cut it. All right. But some of the residue stays in there. So if I use that thing over and over again exactly. So I'm not cutting it right anymore. And just a little bit extra, and bam, you just killed half your customer base,
And then these are organizations that don't really have good SOPs.
They don't have a hotline. They
They don't wash hands.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah. There's no to report an issue with your product. That's fine. So anyway, and then yeah, you're right. So the U.S. and because this is the drug market, all right, made it really hard to get amphetamine. So
yeah, it's a show ID to buy.
Show ID to buy, and you get one, kind of thing. Yeah. And so that forced your major meth makers to go out there and actually find a new way to make meth. Okay. And they did. And it's like fentanyl. You can do it with chemicals that are readily available. You can buy them in bulk. All right. And stuff like that. It's extremely toxic. It's much more Walter Whitey. So, and stuff like that.
Wow.
But this article was interesting because it was talking about several people who had been users who actually recovered from it.
Oh.
And they said there's this time between 2014 and 2016 where meth changed over the course of 2 years in the United States.
Really?
Yeah. And so rather than before, back when it was made with Sudafed, you get a high off of it, and it was kind of oh, this is chill, I can sit here and hang out and have a good conversation with my friend the entire night, just relax and things like that. It's not the teeth falling out kind of meth that we're thinking of.
The speed.
That's biker crank, yeah. Right. So in particular, so it's just a purely chemical stuff, and now it's gone back to that. And that's why, and they're saying that this one guy in particular was this is why the homeless problem is so bad in the United States right now. He says everybody's saying that it's shit fucking lack of housing and things like this and blah, 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 and social services, yada, yada. He's no, it's the fucking meth. And he says it's the meth because rather than having this thing where you can, get a good high on and sit with your friend and chit chat for a few hours and go to bed and wake up feeling okay, this is the kind of meth, the biker shit, that makes you fucking paranoid. So, to the point in time where you don't want to live in a house, you feel much more comfortable living without a roof. Okay, you want to be around other people who are just as fucking paranoid as you. Yeah. So, yeah. And so, and then they were saying, meth used to be exceptionally rare east of the Mississippi. And by 2018, right before the pandemic hit, it had made it all the way over to Ohio. And then it had actually made it all the way up to New England after the pandemic. So,
well, I knew guys, even in high school. I mean, this is the thing.
I knew guys in high school who were doing crystal meth.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, they would just say they were tweaking.
Yeah, but see, that's my point. Yeah. All right. This guy was making this point. It's a really good one. He says, the drug problem hasn't changed. The drug has changed.
Right.
And he says the drug has just changed on us in the last like 6-7 years.
Right.
So,
Right.
and if you think about it, like, okay, so there were always a few homeless folks around, you know, kind of thing. But yeah, like the camps that you see, like in fucking Oregon and fucking LA and shit like that, it was not like that 15 years ago. So
That makes sense.
yeah. So he said it's all the meth. And it's so cheap. They say it's 90% cheaper than it was like 8 years ago. So
That makes perfect
everybody
sense.
fucking makes it. So
Well, because think about it, man. Like, there are the people who used to be in trouble with that. Like, if you talk about drugs that historically used to be tied with that, I mean, things like heroin and stuff.
sure.
Like, that was problematic.
Heroin
And you know
was
what?
problematic.
But the thing is, heroin's eventually going to get you. It's
Right.
yeah, it's inevitable. Meth didn't always get people.
No.
In fact, I knew people that recovered.
I knew people who recovered back then.
Yeah.
To be fair, I haven't known anybody who's hooked on this kind of meth. So yeah.
And frankly, what I understand now is there's never been a better time to be into marijuana, because
Yeah.
the quality of it is so much nicer than
Yeah.
the crap that everybody grew up with.
Yeah. There's a double edge to that one too, though, man. So
Of course.
yeah. So like, you know, you can get way more stoned off the stuff that they make these days. You know, and if you don't have that tolerance for that, you know, you get yourself. It's like that's the whole thing with kids eating gummy edibles and stuff and
Yeah.
fucking dying.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there's not that many cases.
No,
of that,
that's hard
but it
to
has
do,
happened.
but-
Yeah.
Well, let's not sit here and pretend that any of these things is some kind of like free lunch.
Oh yeah. Sure. Yeah. No.
For as much as your fucking, you know, local stoner advocate wants to sit there and say like, oh no, these are as good for you as carrots, or these, it's like,
right.
okay.
Yeah. So, you know what? I actually have heard a lot fewer articles and advertisements for, you know, arguing for the benefits of CBD. So, I just don't think they ever were able to actually stitch together the science on that one. But I used to listen. Well, I still do, but, you know, there's this guy who does this consumer advocacy stuff on the radio in the early afternoon. And he used to, all the time, go on and on and on and on and on about this shit. And of course, it was because he was being advertised. You know, there are a lot of advertisers who are paying for, you know, time on a show.
Yeah.
Fine. He's a radio guy. That's what you do. So I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, lately, I'd say the last year, it's crickets on that stuff. You know, you don't hear about, like, oh, this is a great product and I use it all the time. So it helps my mom and myself with our arthritis. So, you know,
Hey man, I tried it with my dog. It didn't help her.
yeah, no, my mom tried it. And so it didn't help her really either. So, she thought she was fairly convinced it was basically a placebo effect.
I am fairly certain. You know, there might be some people that it helps because, you know, there's a possibility. I have no idea. But frankly, at this point, I'd rather actually give my dog medical MJ, you know. She doesn't really hold still enough while I light the joints, but, you know, it's... breathe in, dumbass. Stop snoring. Yeah, I mean, I'd be more inclined to give her something like that. But yeah, dude, I remember you couldn't go into like a pet shop without them trying to sell you that stuff for a long
I
time.
remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, there was something about it that was a little ridiculous there for a little while. So I know some people were mad that we actually shot down that ballot measure last fall to legalize rec here in town.
It'll happen eventually, but
It might, you know, but, you know, to tell you the truth, man.
it won't hurt my feelings if it doesn't.
No, exactly. I'm kind of in the
If you
same
want to
position.
go that way, you're fine.
It's 20 minutes down in Manitou. It's 30 minutes
Yeah.
down to Pueblo. It's another 30 minutes up north to, you know, Aurora. So,
oh,
you
the
know,
inconvenience.
oh Lord, yeah. So, you know, I can't get stoned right now. I'm gonna drive. I'm gonna drive. You know. Well, and they'll fucking mail it to you too. So, yeah, you know, it's not hard to get it in the mail. I don't know how illegal that is, but
I'm not going to experiment just to find out.
I'm not gonna do the reading on it. I don't care. So
I'm not writing a paper. I'm not.
no, I'm not writing a paper on it.
That's I can't Hunter S. Thompson this one and say like, guys, this was actually for research. Now I am gonna get stoned as fuck, but I was also doing this for research.
Right.
Yeah. No, that's
There I got him too.
it comes from all. Dude.
It comes for all of you. Yeah.
Like it's like, dude. Eventually, you gotta slow down and go back to sports writing, dog. Like, you gotta ease up. Like, I get it. Like, there's some great stuff in here, but that's gonna take its toll on you, buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a weird thing, man. Like, and it's hard for me to be judgmental across this stuff because I feel like there's been some form of. I feel like it's kind of shifted around, but I feel like there's been somewhat of a drug culture for decades, if not hundreds of years.
Sure.
Right?
No, it's been around a long time.
It takes its, different. We weren't here for the early cocaine times where that was like being given out by your doctor.
You get the gum, man. Yeah, with cocaine in it.
Dude, I don't know what to tell you. Yeah, and then you had like the legal speed and all that other shit, and
Yeah.
So whatever.
Well, I mean, the history behind marijuana is pretty interesting too. It's just because, like, well, I don't want to go into that because all those hemp fags, so. Shouldn't have said that. So,
No, okay. Listen,
but it just was.
Yeah.
It was one of those things where it was like, like it's not just a little twist in the law, and it's not just because alcohol was trying to put you out of business and stuff like that. It's because a lot of people just simply didn't have that much experience with it, and it was an easy thing to blame their problems on. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. Call it for what it is. It's not some conspiracy,
no, because that implies enough people care, and that's just not true.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's not. It doesn't work like that. So,
No, it does not. And yeah, it's fun sometimes, Patrick, to wear the persecution complex around your neck for a while, right?
Yeah.
It feels great to think that you are at the center of something really big and deep,
yeah.
But the truth of the matter is, it's usually not as complicated as you think. It's like, well, yes, this is your biggest deal,
Right.
but is it for everyone? I sincerely doubt it.
Yeah. Yeah, there's very few things that actually reach to the level of BFD for all of us, so anymore.
No, tell me if you've heard of
Nuclear
this.
war would be one, but...
Yeah. No arguments there, buddy. Tell me if you've heard of this dickhead. This was a guy who I had the misfortune of transcribing an interview with this butthole. But he's been making the rounds here. What's his goddamn name? I'll find it.
What's his deal?
Dr. Derek Hamilton.
I don't think so.
Well, okay.
What's his thing?
Well, his thing, right? He's an economist.
There.
Okay, that doesn't present himself as a progressive. He's a humanist, right?
That's worse than being a progressive. So
Kind of.
yeah.
Well, all right. So you know how your socialism detector goes off?
Yeah, I know how it goes off.
Okay, now mine
Very sensitive.
well, this was okay. Now my socialism detector wasn't going off, but I was like about 35 minutes in, and I'm starting to feel this like burning sensation at the back of my neck. I'm like, he's gonna say, like, is he gonna say it? And he's talking about how the current inflationary situation, and how it's, and this I agree with. Basically looking at it as the argument was, is a recession worse than inflation right now, right? This was the crux of this. And they said, well, right. This was interesting because, they were talking about the situation with the, unemployment and everything. And the way that they put it here was that if this were a recession and it resulted in unemployment, there are safeguards for that. There are programs for that. As of right now, inflation is basically a tax that is basically hitting the lowest classes the hardest. Like, okay, it's hard to argue that.
Yeah.
But this is where my spidey sense was going off. He's going to say it. He's like, because this is an opportunity
Universal basic income.
No.
Oh no. Nationalization?
No.
Oh no, where's he going?
Reparations.
Oh Lord. So, god dang it, man. Why is it this is like this like there is no issue out there that actually would literally tear this country apart.
Oh yeah.
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 It's not one of those things that
Fucking what now?
yeah, it's like, excuse me? So, and then there's so many complicated issues associated with that.
Yeah.
That it's just ridiculous. And, but I have seen some economists kind of go in that direction, but, yeah, no, that guy's definitely, he's further left than like some of the socialism dudes or even the Paul Krugmans of the world. So,
And you don't hate Krugman, do you?
no, he's a very smart guy.
Okay.
Yeah, he's definitely a Keynesian, and so there's people who would disagree with him on a lot of things, but like he's like a lot of the other guys. He's right about as often as he's wrong. So,
Okay.
and hey man, anybody who got that kind of record, I'll listen to you. So, I know there are people out there who won't listen to him just based on principle because free markets is just as fucking much bullshit as. Like anything that he proposes sometimes, it's got its problems too. And so,
Well, is it actually free market, or are you saying basically all the things that you want to associate with a free market that aren't a free market?
I think there are definitely people out there who actually argue, well, I mean, like, who's the senator who was doing that last week, who was like, let's sunset all federal laws and then we have to reapprove them every couple of years or something like that. Yeah, I know. Judge Mayer just lifted off his head. What? What did he say? Yeah, no. What? That's kind of the idea, is where you wipe the slate clean and just let people kind of do their own thing. I mean, that is absolutely fucking ridiculous. So, I mean... That would basically turn us into, zombie land without the zombies.
Right.
So, it'd be like, all right, so who's got the most 223 rounds, and can bully food out of their neighbors? This is great.
So you want to see people actually living with a real life harem?
Right, yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, they kind of have that a little bit here and there. So, but I mean, it would be full on,
Right, but it's a soft harem. It's not a warlord's harem.
Right, it's not a war. This is not Genghis Khan.
Right.
So
you do not murder the fathers and take the women. It's
Right.
not yet. I mean, there might be some, Montana guys I know that might do that and, claim it for religious reasons. I have no idea.
They would definitely claim it for religious reasons. So, but yeah, no, like those guys that are, at least if you're within a click or two of the middle, I'll listen to you, man. So if you're way out there on the edges, like some of these guys are, like these Ayn Rand guys, it's like
that's something else.
I can't do that, man. It's like, like I don't even want to hear it because you're not going to change my mind on that shit. And I'm going to vote your shit down. So go move on. Go find somebody with extreme prejudice. Yeah. And I'm the same way whenever I come across bona fide communists anymore. So it's like, all right, I'm willing to have your discussion about Medicare for all, but you got to do the math. All right, you got to show me how the math works. Because everybody who's tried to put the math together has done fucked it up, okay, in order to make their case sound better. So if you give me an honest accounting of that, and if you bring me something behind that, I'll listen to you, okay?
That's fair.
But if you turn around and you start telling me that, like, oh my God, it's the worst system in the world and it produces the worst outcomes, like, you haven't done fucking math. All right? So go take a look at any other country out there. Every one of these was socialized medical systems. And if you went to their government and said, hey, we'd like to take this off your hands and make employers pay for it, every last fucking one of them would be like, that's great. So,
Yeah, the actual contract says no take backs.
no take back. Yeah. No vaccines. Yeah. So, because that's essentially a tax if you think about it.
That's exactly what it
That's
is.
exactly what it is. And so, and the fact
Which, again, I can see the merit of.
I can see the merit of it too, man. But at the same point in time, I mean, the thing that changed my mind on that was actually talking to people who are employers. And I was like, would you give up, the health benefits that you can offer your employees? Like, absolutely not. So, it's like, there's no way. I mean, I use this as a competitive advantage. I myself use the plan and I really like it. I don't get any complaints from my employees about it. We have really good coverage, things like that, And so that's when I flipped on that one. I was like, okay, well, if you guys don't want it, yeah, I mean, you'd be the first ones to want it.
Well, I would say, okay, so my approach on this, okay, and you tell me what you think about this, would be my study on this would basically look at it in terms of, all right, so if I can look at basically the times when people have been ruined by medical costs, right? That would be my case study and say, all right, so if that's this case, where is the gap in here? Right? And I can't do the math on it, Pat. I don't know right now. You'd have to lay out 100 million documents, and I'd have to look and say, like, well, these are the common points. If you address it, because I think if you address that, the system's fine.
I think so too.
Some kind of whatever it is, even if it's like, all right, so once you hit this max or whatever, then the government will kick in, whatever, and this comes from this pool everybody pays into this fund or whatever. All right, I got it, right? But in terms of, look, man, I had this discussion with, it's hard for me to call this a student, teacher or anything, but it's all conversational. I'm talking about this is a person that has, basically, it's their medical stuff is in, psychiatry and this kind of stuff. And I said this, I said, do you know how hard it is to actually find a psychiatrist now?
It's hard. Yeah.
Incredibly difficult, right? Because there were some people basically picking on, this came up because there were some dorks in the media sitting there like picking on like, look at what's happening to medicine. It's like telemedicine is not medicine. I'm like, bullshit. I'm going to, let me tell you, like,
fine.
Let me tell you how this has helped my life specifically, okay? Like, there are times when your ankle hurts so bad, right? And all you can do as a man, you're sitting there, I know this seems ridiculous, right? But there's this moment where, because that's who you are, you start to think, did I permanently mess something up?
Yeah, I've thought about that.
Of course you have, because you're like, what is life going to be like to live with one wrist? What is life? You think about it. You can't help it. Your brain kind of goes that way.
Yeah. No, I know how you feel.
And the cool thing is to go on there for like $50, right? Minus your deduction, whatever it is. You go on there and you go meet the doctor. He says, all right, well, hold your foot up to the screen. It's like, okay, got it. He's like, does it feel like this? No. Does it feel like this? Yes. What's your diagnosis? He's going to tell you one of two things. Stay off it. You'll be fine. Go to the hospital now.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And you have any idea how much that's helped you in life to be able to actually put that worry to bed?
Yeah. A
right?
lot. Yeah.
And this is just guys who hop on there and they'll knock this out in like an hour or something. And if you take a look at that, with the situation where people can't find psychiatrists, especially my understanding is that the post-COVID psychiatrist drain is a real problem.
It's humongous.
Think about that under
It's
a socialized system.
Oh, it'd be horrifyingly bad. Yeah. Horrifyingly bad.
You'd never get help.
Yeah, you'd never get one. So you take a number, okay, we'll call you in 8 months. Yeah, no. And then, I mean, so, like, and then there's... So, like, the medical system does have some pain points. And so, you know, like, this is one thing that I do know is, like, one of the biggest pain points is actually training new doctors and nurses. So the reason for that pain point and why it exists there is, number one, medical school is really fucking expensive.
Yeah.
Nursing college is really fucking expensive.
Yeah.
Okay. But neither of those schools can, like, pay out enough to get, you know, quality faculty members to come out of practice, because you make so much more in practice. You know, you're not going to do that and practice and go teach. You know, I mean, some people do, but then, you know, it's just the way the schools are set up. And then, of course, you know, there's always kind of this, like, tyranny of meritocracy within it, too, where... Yeah, where it's like, oh, well, we only have 10 slots. Well, we have 50 fucking applicants in a hospital that's dying for people. Why do you only have 10 slots, you know? So it's, well, we take the best and the brightest. And it's like, okay, this doesn't really help the fucking community, though. You know? So, yeah.
How do you think they get there?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, yeah. So, you know, and then it's still the same thing. Yeah, the whole pipeline all the way up. The amount of accreditation that you need, all kinds of shit. So yeah, no, that's absolutely a pain point. So I mean, there's like other ones in there. So like small business owners get fucked. So somebody should do something about that. That's fine, you know. But like Obamacare got it fitted down to, I think it's like anything less, more than 100 employees, something like that. So he was talking about the tiniest of small businesses, and the problem with most small businesses is that, see, this is the thing that, like, you know, we were talking about this the other day. I had to go back and look at Alphabet's margins and stuff like that. But when you have, well, we can talk about that in a minute, but when you have a really large business like that, okay, they can soak up a lot of that cost, all right? But when you have a really small business and not affect anybody's salaries, okay, and stuff like that, when you have a really small business and all of a sudden your medical plan, you're paying out like triple what you were before, but there's only 5 guys who work here and you're the owner, you're taking it in the ass. So, you know, at that point in time, because your salary or whatever you take out of the business is a big portion of that business revenue. You know, and so, yeah, there's a problem right there. The other problem, and this is one that really kind of blew my mind when I saw some of the stats on it, was most of the medical expenditures in the United States that result in some kind of bankruptcy are for people who are over the age of 55. So
that makes sense, actually.
Well, yeah, that's when you get really fucking sick sometimes, you know, and like you're getting towards the ass end of your career, you know, it's not like you're getting promoted or anything like that. Maybe you are, but you know, you don't have that many. So
that's when my dad got sick.
Well, yeah, absolutely. So, you know, and it's one of those things where you if you don't have medical coverage or good medical coverage at that point in time, that's when you can get ruined. And so the math on it's actually pretty straightforward. If you just bring the Medicare eligibility down to 55, it actually doesn't cost that much more, but it fixes like a shitload of those problems.
Yeah, because it's defrayed upon such a large group.
Well, yeah, and those people are still working at that time. They're still paying into the system. So unlike anybody else who's 65 and older, they're not paying into the system anymore.
Well, and that would also mean that employers at that point would also be able to charge those people off and say like, oh, well, you're on Medicare now, dude.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah,
that's 55. All right, just go ahead and fill out this form.
Yeah,
they'd be like, we filled it out for you. Just sign.
We enrolled you in this.
Yeah,
you have to opt out.
You know, and that's fine. Like, if you say like, well, I opt out of that because I want to have private insurance or whatever, like, I think that should be fine.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, and I mean, that's like one of the things. Like, even my students from England, you know, the wealthier ones, they all carry private insurance. So because they're like, oh fuck, I'm not waiting in line. You know, if you got private insurance, they just charge my insurer, and I go see your guy tomorrow. You know.
Well, you know, and that is one of the things that I do find. I've seen people say it's weird in this country, but it's just what I'm used to. Is where they say, no, actually, in other countries, you start out specialized and then go to general, right, as your next level of medicine. Whereas in here,
it's backwards.
Where it's like, well, okay, so you're a psychiatrist. It's like, yeah, it doesn't mean I didn't do ER for, 4 years or whatever. Where it's like, actually, you do know about all sorts of general medical stuff. So I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. It's very interesting. What was cool about it was that also meant, and this is something that they don't talk about, is that when COVID came, all hands were on deck because they're all trained in it. They're like, well, can we get you all to pull back and do?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
No problem.
Yeah.
Because I did it.
Yeah,
Right.
no, there were a lot of people who did that. So
Yeah, there were doctors that were saying like, it's just 30 days in a month. I work 28 of them.
yeah. You
know.
well, you went to medical school. I mean, you got what you need to know. So
Because then the other point is like, are they paying you? It's like, yes.
yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
So you do this for 2 more weeks. That's your pool
right
in California.
in California,
Right. That's a California pool. That means that you had to pull permits upon permits. Right. We're not talking about a Wyoming pool.
right. Where you ask your neighbor for his backhoe? Yeah,
A Wyoming pool is like a trip to Lowe's, or
Right, yeah.
It's either you ask your neighbor for us. It's like, how much to rent one of those?
right. Yeah,
It's like, well, $50.
yeah.
Per
Or
day.
a case of beer. You know,
Like, oh yeah, it's like, how
bring
about
it
for
back
somebody
full.
to do it for me? It's
just
like,
bring it back full.
Yeah.
yeah,
well, if you want it done, it's like, go ask Jed. He's my brother. He'll do it for
yeah.
you.
Exactly. He's bored.
Like, do I have to pull permits? Like, for what?
This is
Like,
Wyoming, man.
It's like,
yeah.
are you gonna fuck up the Wyoming water table?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know, man. So when my wife went through cancer, there were some times there where it was kind of like, we're fucked. So
Right.
there were a couple times where like, we're absolutely fucked. We got our first bill for chemotherapy, and it was like 34 grand. And it was like, and you need to do 14 of these. You know, and then another 6 months of radiation behind that. I was like, oh, we're fucked. We're going to lose our house. We're going to live in my mom's basement again. You know, all this shit.
Yeah.
But then I realized what was going on. So the way that my plan works is once I hit my annual out-of-pocket maximum, everything's covered. We hit that in the first day. So
There you go.
you know, and at that point in time, it was like everything kicked in and everything was taken care of, and we only ever paid out that like $8 grand, you know, and it was like $4,000 a year was our out of pocket maximum, and so it was 2 years, and so that's all we were out of pocket. It was like $1 million treatment. You know, and then so I was like, what the math on this is just fucking stupid. But here's what it is you got a 4-way circle jerk going on between patients, providers, insurers, and pharmaceuticals on there.
Yeah.
And it's just money that just turns around and basically goes on spin cycle through that entire thing, and nobody ever is happy with it. You know, your doctors are overworked, okay? Your insurers always think they're getting ripped off, okay? Your pharmaceutical companies, you know, I mean, despite like some of the chicanery that they engage in and stuff like that, they do get the boots put to them by the other 3 people on there because they're like, no, we're not going to do that drug, man. So, you know, why would we do that when we can have this generic one that works just as good? So, you know, they don't get what they want out of it either. And so when you have a system where you have 4 people playing poker and none of them are winning, that's a pretty good game. You know?
That's what it's supposed to be.
Yeah, that's what it's supposed to be.
That's what keeps you scrappy.
Right, yeah.
That's no, because you're talking about what happens to Rocky between Rocky 2 and Rocky 3.
Exactly.
Yeah. Because when Clubber Lang kicked the shit out of him, it's because he was resting on his laurels.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
He was doing like promotional things with Thunder.
He had a
Lips.
robot, yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's the 4th one.
Oh,
yeah,
that's
but,
you're right. That's
but yeah, it's when Mr. T beat the shit out of him. That was the thing. Was Clubber Lang was out Rockying Rocky.
Right.
That was super clear.
right.
Right? He's the one that's training hard. He's the one over there like running through Philadelphia fucking while Hearts on Fire is playing, and Rocky's sitting there saying like, whoa, we're gonna have like 2 steaks, you know, or whatever.
Right.
It's but yeah, that's the thing is everybody should be fighting in this a little bit. Like I gotta say none of those guys are hurting. Right? They're not hurting.
No.
They're not.
No, but like,
And my understanding is that pharmaceutical companies, they make their big checks when they come up with a drug or a treatment, and they get the cash in for whatever that 2, 3, 5 year
Yeah.
period is, right? Which
Yeah.
is why they work so goddamn hard to be like, can we find a way to treat pancreatitis?
right. Yeah, no, they they do. They get a lot of money from the government too. So, but
They do.
They do.
Yeah.
But they also like, I don't know, man. So like, they had that thing that you were talking about a couple of weeks ago with was it Project Veritas?
Yeah, the forced mutation on this.
Yeah, so I went and I didn't find too much on that, other than like this really milquetoast, like, fucking apology on the part of the company. Oh, we won't do that. This is not what we're actually doing. But it was interesting that I actually responded to it in an official press release. So, but that prompted me to kind of look into the pharmaceuticals. And, like, I've heard this on a couple channels that I listen to so often. It's like, oh, it's cartel, it's cabal, and blah, blah, blah. Man, these companies, there are like 5 of them in the United States. They're all about the equal same size. They fucking fight each other tooth and nail for this shit. So, they really do. And so, I mean, if you have like an industry like that, man, then it's kind of like, all right, well, this one's actually fairly healthy, but like the COVID thing is really interesting, especially with like Pfizer made record profits last year. So you know where they made it all off of, though? They made it all in their fourth quarter.
Did they?
Yeah, they did. So that's because someone put in a great big order for the coronavirus vaccines.
Yeah.
Which ocean do you think those went over, Jeff?
I would say the Pacific.
You would be correct.
I'm guessing the Pacific, although there are some problems over there. I know that they're actually they have some trouble in India right now.
Oh, do they?
Yeah.
Oh, I haven't heard that.
Yeah, because my understanding is that India would not grant them the moratorium on lawsuits and things like that.
Oh, yeah.
That the United States did. So the thing that's interesting here is what data will come out of that, because
That might be interesting.
yeah, I don't know. I will say that there is a lot of suspicious stuff going on here, and like I can't even pretend. The numbers are staggering in terms of people that have mysterious health circumstances that I can't put it on there. I can say like this did it.
Yeah,
Because my home chemistry set hasn't confirmed that for me, right? You've seen my microwave. It's dangerous.
It's dangerous. You just gotta run on high for like half an hour, man.
Come to my house, it's free chemo or free radiation.
Yeah, exactly. But don't leave the door open.
I don't you remember how it was described? It's like somebody described chemo and radiation therapy of seeing if they can actually kill cancer before it kills you.
That's not how that works. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, that's not how that works.
but yeah, that's so I can't prove it, but I can guarantee you there's going to be some really fascinating data that comes out with this, because this shit ain't coincidental.
No, I did some reading on that. I did a pretty heavy duty dive on that. I want to say about August or so, because there were papers coming out of Israel that were looking at some of that stuff.
Oh, and those guys are fucking vax lunatics.
Yeah, I know, but they were actually like, no, we need to be cool on these, and of course, all kinds of people jumped all over their shit. But I was like, oh well, that's kind of interesting coming out of a place like Israel, so let me take a look at that. The problem with it is, like, from what I understand, is that there's no control group so that you can test against, and the reason why there's no control group is because, like, vaccines, you know how they work. You get a little bit of like the schmutz in you, and
It depends on the vaccine.
Yeah. So, but like,
Because these are a different kind of vaccine.
yeah,
The RNA vaccine.
right, yeah, but like, so one of them is not like that though. So one of them is more of a traditional one. I can't remember which one it is.
You're probably thinking of the Johnson & Johnson one.
It might be.
But that's
I
the
thought
one
it was
that
the
least
Moderna
effective.
one, actually. I think it's the Moderna one, but I don't know. But anyway, here's the thing: is like, regardless of how that necessarily works, it tries to trigger that response, your immune system response, all right, so that it actually prepares itself for the virus when you actually do get it.
Right.
Okay. So regardless of the way that it goes, and again, this is way outside of what I know anything about. So
We'd need a microbiologist.
we would need a microbiologist or preferably a virologist, but we do have a statistician, or at least a make believe one on TV.
Okay.
And so here's the thing that's really interesting about this shit. Okay, so type 1, type 2 errors, right? So on this one, type 1 error, I tell you you have cancer, but you don't, all right? Type 2 error, I tell you you don't have cancer, but you do. Much, much worse type of like error to make.
Right.
Okay, and so this is why, in order to not commit that type of error, you want to have a control group, all right? And the control group in this case is people who are basically fucking impossible to find, all right? They are people who have not had the vaccine and have not had the COVID.
Yeah.
You know?
And are willing to subject themselves. Those people have at least played out like, oh, now we will.
Oh, no, yeah. It was, you can scrape out all 30 of them out of Alaska, you know, kind of thing, yeah. And so there's this, when I was reading on this, and I think this was in the New England Journal of Medicine a little while ago, they face a classic known, unknowable problem. Okay?
Yeah.
So, because it's like, well, how the fuck are we going to be able to tell whether or not it's the vaccine that's causing this or whether it's the virus? There's only 2 control groups out there. One of them is, of course, people who've neither had either.
Right.
The other one is people who had the vaccine, then got sick, then got COVID. There are very few of them, too. So, you know, it's kind of like, well, fuck. All right. And then on top of that, if you have people who got the vaccine and then got myocarditis, okay, afterwards, there's a gap period in there where you may have had asymptomatic COVID, but if you weren't tested, there's no fucking way to tell. And so it's just like, oh, so we're not going to know this until the next pandemic. You know? So
we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
Let me put it this way. Just because I don't know the answer doesn't mean the answer's not going to come out.
Yeah, no, it might come out. So, yeah, it might come out.
But that being said, there's not shit I can do about it now.
No, it's done. I had both shots and I had COVID, so
So did I.
who the fuck knows? So
That dude had no shots, got COVID, and
you know, my brother had shots but did not get COVID. But I'm pretty sure he had it. He was just asymptomatic.
I'm sure he was exposed in one way or another.
Guaranteed he was exposed to. His girlfriend had it like 4 fucking times. So
There you go.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, no, it was just like one of those things. It's like, wow, that's something we kind of need the answer to. So, but
Well, I don't know. I don't because that's the tricky part is whether or not that legal agreement is so binding that if they were to find out tomorrow that look, here's your oversight. This is where you fucked up. This is actually killing people, right?
Congress passed the law; they can repeal it. So,
Fair enough.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, if it proves to like, you know, in 5 years, like fucking half the population is myocarditis is really rare, but you know, like it's one of those things where if like it turns out that you get in your 40s and everybody's fucking got it, yeah, they'll be like, I'm gonna vote, man.
Well, both. The problem here is we'd look at this and say, all right, if it's affecting the elderly, nobody would even bat an eyelash. But it's just
Probably not.
it's the people who are in their 20s, in their 30s, that are just collapsing out of nowhere, and you have people's like, no, it's got to be a COVID thing. It's like, how the fuck do you know?
No, and that's my point. You don't know if it's the shot or the disease. So, yeah. And so, like, just as bad when people hide, oh, it's got to be COVID. It's like, no, motherfucker, you can't say that. You don't know that. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of rough. And I don't know. Listen, whatever's going to happen is going to happen. We'll get there, but I don't know. I don't like it.
No, yeah, and it'll be. I'm confident to say that if we had another pandemic, it would not be handled that way. No, I'm very confident now.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
This is one of those. If reparations is Civil War #1, vax #2 would be Civil War #2.
Yeah, I don't think any company now would actually have grounds to stand on to force you to get another vaccine.
Lost your fucking mind.
They lost the fight, man, on it. So absolutely lost the fight, and I mean, when the airlines capitulated on that, it was kind of like, okay, this one's done. So this one's been settled, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it would not be handled the same way. And I can't believe that I see some people who are calling for them to put up Gavin Newsom. So to run against Biden, I'm like, you guys are fucking insane, man. There is nobody outside of that state who has a nice thing to say about that man. So
No.
you got 49 states that are going to vote against you. You're going to lose.
You'll win a big one.
You'll win a big one. You might get New York, maybe.
It depends. It depends on if there was anybody closer to the East Coast that, like, they might protest to vote against that guy.
Yeah.
It's possible. Like, look.
I can't believe that, man.
No, it's it's fascinating. Yeah, is if you're into politics in that area, it's because you've been kissed in by the Pelosi family. That's
true.
all there is to it. And there's a lot that
Or Maxine Waters. Is she still around?
yeah, she was blessed in by those guys.
Yeah.
And I mean, this is the
I thought she'd been around longer than Pelosi.
oh, she has.
Oh, okay.
But the family that she comes from, right? 'Cause remember, that's not her name. What? I'm trying to remember the
Maxine Waters?
No, Pelosi.
Oh, I don't
I'm
know.
trying to remember her maiden name. That's the family that has been California, that area's politics for
Oh, I
a
don't
long
know what
time.
it is, yeah.
But yeah, it's
Not Reagan.
it's not Nixon either.
Nixon.
That would be some sweet ass shit. Yeah, let's get some Nixons in here. Yeah, and that's the rough thing is did you watch that State of the Union?
I did not. So,
Shit, that was funny.
yeah, no,
That place has become Congress has become a fucking ghetto in record time.
I don't know, man. Like the last couple of things that I've seen about Mike McCarthy, he's actually doing a pretty good job. So, I don't know.
Oh no, it's not that. It's the way it's
He's running like Maury Povich now.
It's-
Like
it's-
everybody, woo!
it kind of is, like it is. The State of Union has turned into like going to the movies in a black neighborhood.
Oh,
And, like
God.
there is so much. Yeah, there is so much fucking shouting at the screen now. And don't get me wrong, that is something that came in during the Trump era. So you can't turn around and say like, "Oh, where has our decorum gone?" It's like,
Well, it started with You Lie back with Barack Obama, remember?
oh, that too.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that was like an isolated incident.
Well, and everybody's like, oh. They're like, oh, teacher's gonna get you.
Look, I was there. That was like, but the decorum, right?
I don't know, man. I've watched enough of the British, like where they grill the PM.
Oh, gee, Canada
I
the same
fucking
way.
love it, man. I would
hilarious.
love it if they did the State of the Union like that
Well,
instead.
this is where it's. If that's what you want, that's what you got this year.
Well, I don't want 2 hours of it though, So yeah. So no, and I didn't really want to watch it says Jurassic Joe is the new name out there, which is great.
Okay, that works.
That one was pretty
Yeah.
good. It's just like, look, man, I know what he's gonna say. I know what he's gonna talk about. So, and I was out with a friend anyway, so I was like, fuck it. So, but then like everything that I saw the next day was like, oh, he didn't fall down. I was like, okay.
That's such a low bar of expectation, man.
Right, that was kind of my point. Yeah.
And that's what you're saying. Like, he keeps insisting that he wants to run again, and
I'm not convinced that he's going to. So,
I don't know why he'd want to tell you the truth.
well, we're gonna have to see what happens with Hunter Biden. So,
Well, he copped to it. That's his laptop.
no, I get that, but the whole thing and the secretary and stuff like that, like, I don't know if it's like in the Republicans to go after him. So, but I would certainly put it within the realm of possibilities that either some local DAs or state attorneys general would. So, and I think if anything of those happen, so there's one point about Joe Biden that Ben Shapiro made that I absolutely agree with. So, and it's that you can say a lot of shit about Joe Biden, but I don't think he's a bad dad. So
I disagree.
well, so like if you actually take a look at his texts and stuff, he tries to be encouraging and things like that, and those are not meant for public consumption as far as we know. I don't think he's a bad dad, man. I think he really does care about his kids, and maybe he doesn't do the best job as a father, but that doesn't mean he doesn't care about them. And so if someone goes after Hunter Biden, and if that becomes a campaign issue, I can definitely see him ducking out. So,
Patrick, I would like to cite to you Ashley Biden's diary, pages 67 to 68.
yeah.
And I quote, "I'm so afraid of him coming in the shower with me that I've waited until late at night to take a shower."
Her dad?
Yes,
Oh, I didn't know that.
that is correct.
Why did that come out before?
Because, Patrick, the argument is whether or not that the diary was acquired by scrupulous means.
What does that mean?
There's debates about whether or not it was right for these people to attain it, because there's arguments. I can't remember the whole argument is to say this, like, all right, well, it was stolen, it was something like that. I can't remember the whole story, but that's
Did she ever address those comments?
no,
Why not?
because she's the daughter of.
Well, does she love her dad, or?
It doesn't matter.
Well, yeah, it does. So, like, how old was she when she wrote that?
I don't have that with me. She was like a teenager.
Okay.
But ultimately, I'm just going to put it out to you like that. Anybody who has that kind of reputation, I cannot give them any kind of credit for being a good father.
Well, I don't know, man. Ben Shapiro made a pretty good argument for it, so I'm just referring to what he had to say about it.
And that's fine.
So I hadn't really done that much deep diving on it, but like, he gets really offended when you talk shit about his kids, and so he's just very defensive of them. So
That's fine.
yeah, and so that's my point. So like, I think if someone does go after Hunter Biden a little bit too hard, he'll probably tuck out. So and then on top of it, like 2 more years, like what's he going to look like on the campaign trail, man? It's going to be bad. So,
I understand.
I don't think he's going to be on the campaign trail that much. So
I would argue that, if anything, the whole purpose of him saying that I'm planning to run at this point is to basically not have everybody think of him as like, oh, I don't need to take him seriously because he's not going to run, right?
yeah, I agree
He's
with
a
that.
lame duck himself and just...
Well, he absolutely would. He's got another year before he really needs to think about that too much.
Yeah.
Well, and you got to see what happens on the Republican side first too. So
It's got to be one of 2 guys.
I think so, unless like, I don't know, man. Yeah, I think it's going to be one.
As of right now, I can tell you how they're polling, and it's Donald Trump.
Yeah, I don't think
I don't want that dude to be president again.
no.
And that's, look,
Wait, he's gonna burn one of the really good guys in order
That's
to get
the
there.
problem.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the fucking problem.
because if you burn him, you burn Florida, and you need Florida for any kind of momentum. Like Florida has to become Republican California, right? They need to make that their guaranteed spot, because
that's Texas too.
well, that's the thing is, if they get New York and California,
Yeah, Florida and Texas pretty good counterbalance.
yeah, but Florida's not as locked as they seem to think it is, right?
Well, neither is Texas. So
Yeah.
I don't know, man, but like, I saw the Orange Menace taking swipes at Mr. DeSantis there the other day.
yeah.
And it was kind of like, whoa. And then he said very nice things about Joe Biden yesterday. It was like, what the what? What are you doing, bro? It's just it was weird, man. And so like, I'll have to wait till like some of these guys that I've listened to, kind of pick that one apart a little bit, because I don't really have a good feel or a take on what he's trying to do there. So,
Well, and listen, all right. So again, this goes to strategy 101. Every 7 moves, you have to do something random, and
so every 7 truths, or whatever sweetheart called.
I don't even know what corny thing they're called over there. For every 7 rock stars you send out, one of them has to be completely random. So I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what kind of like I don't know what they call it over there, like ribeyes or some kind of...
I don't know, man. I think he's pretty serious about it, though. He did say, it was like last week that his kids were going to have no part of his campaign. So I think he recognized them for the fucking liabilities they are. So
fair enough.
Yeah. Yeah, and just to see him punching, but it's not even really punching sideways. It's kind of punching like below the belt, to the guy who's, a lot of people, if you think about it, man, there's been a lot of good Republican governors who just got burned down to the ground. So, yeah, some of them by him.
Yes.
Yeah. So he does have a few scalps on his saddlebags there. So, but I don't know, man. I mean, the thing that is like, here's what's gonna happen, man. At least in my estimation at this point in time, it's a year and a half. A lot of things can change. Your normie candidate's gonna win. Whoever that is next time, that person's gonna fucking win. So if it's fucking Ron DeSantis, he gonna slaughter Joe Biden. Okay. Yeah. If it's Donald Trump versus Joe Biden, Donald Trump probably gonna lose that one. So
if it's that, actually, I'd put it at a coin flip.
I'd put it at a coin flip too, but
exactly 50-50.
I mean, I don't know, man, because like then it comes back to it, with all the craziness, and you get all the normies come out and say, "Fuck this, we do not want this one more time," and that's enough to flip those swing states, man. So
well, again, it's been said, and I'll say it again. This is absolutely right. Is that everybody that would vote for Trump, right? Yeah. Would vote for DeSantis, but everybody that would vote for DeSantis would not necessarily vote for Trump.
That's absolutely correct.
Yeah.
So, in fact, there's a lot of people, like, go back in the election statistics. If you didn't have libertarian candidates, Donald Trump would have won. No problem. So, all those contested states flip like that. These are principled people on the right who say, I'm not voting for that motherfucker. So, So these are people that are to the right of Donald Trump, okay?
That's the weird thing. Libertarianism is sort of right and to the up of... There's this weird... Like, if you took out the French curve and drew the weirdest curlicue thing that you could about where libertarian places, right? There's something about libertarianism that is... equal parts far right and parts far left. It's so bizarre.
Yeah, but like, you're not going to find too many libertarians who are going to vote for Jurassic Joe. So
no,
yeah,
no,
so,
because there's no like your libertarian body should be just like rejecting it like a fucking pig's heart, where it's like, well, this was the guy that was basically pushing vaxes on people, and that is the fundamental government overreach, and this is disgusting.
Yeah. So but you've got like Arizona in particular. So
fucking Arizona.
It was like 70,000, dude. It was like 70,000 fucking libertarians showed up and fucking voted for who the fuck ever was on the libertarian ticket. So that would easily flip that election right back over. So, I mean, well, okay, so that is not the case in some of the other states. So, and it's not enough to actually flip the Electoral College, but it's more than enough to actually push, what is it? There was like 3 states, Nevada, Georgia, and Arizona. So,
I can't imagine there's that much of there's not that much of a libertarian contingent in like Pennsylvania, is there?
Pennsylvania was kind of, the margin of that one is much, much wider than the other states. So, that was really kind of the one that probably put it.
One of the last time too.
It was probably the one that put the fork. Well, that in Michigan. So, but the Michigan margin was pretty high too. But those other states, it's the libertarian vote. It's just they Ross Perot him, man. So an insult.
Well, okay, I'll go with Ralph Nader then, man. No. It's It's just a bad place. You got Ross Perot.
You got Ross Perot?
Oh man.
Oh, man.
What are you still doing on the TV? Like you're supposed to like retire in disgrace somewhere and just
Punch your fist through your hat?
if you got Ross Perot, you just like disappear somewhere and 20 years later you write a book about how you got Ross Perot and this is where Donald Trump should be, where you write in like 20 years like I could have won if it wasn't for those meddling libertarians.
And your stupid dog. Those meddling libertarians.
All right, that's okay. Yeah, I think that's a fine place to go ahead and wrap up.
Yeah, we'll put a pin in it. So.
Okay.
Yeah, so Will's not here, but he said go Eagles.
Yes, but that's William, right? I think obviously he's going to root against the Chiefs, and I have no problem with that. I have no skin in this game.
Yeah.
There's a 50-50 chance that I don't even remember that it's on.
Okay. All right. That's fair. Yeah.
It's so remarkably inconsequential to me because you're asking if do I want to see the Chiefs win or some hated team from the totally overexposed NFC East win?
Right.
No, man.
Yeah, in a town where you have to grease the light poles. So, yeah. Yeah.
The health and safety, boy.
Health and safety. Yeah. So,
All right.
well, we'll see how it goes. So,
We
all right.
will. That's all we can do.
I'm Pat.
I'm Jeffrey.
We're going to go walk downstairs and hit the button.
He's going to walk downstairs and hit the button. I'd like to thank all of you for your support over these difficult years. Your contributions do matter. And if you've gone ahead and sent in for the free tote bag, don't forget, you will be getting those within the next 7 to 10 business weeks.
Hit the button.